Mexico has long been portrayed as a country with a single landscape. Always that heat that comes through the screen, the endless road in the middle of nowhere, and the yellowish scenery that seems to come straight out of an eternal desert. Much of this image came from movies and TV series that insist on this same framing. Breaking Bad is the best example. The production firmly established in the popular imagination that dry, dusty palette almost always associated with northern Mexico. But Mexico is much bigger than this stereotype. Just climb a little way up the mountains to realize that the narrative changes. The climate cools, the vegetation changes color. The air takes on that mountain scent, and at certain times of the year, the snow falls heavily enough to transform the landscape. It is precisely to this lesser-known Mexico that we are now heading. Today, Bello Mundo takes you to Arteaga, a little piece of the country that has earned the nickname of Little Mexican Switzerland, a region that dismantles everything you imagined about the climate and geography here. Arteaga is located in northern Mexico in the state of Coahuila, and that alone explains why so many people are surprised when they finally visit the place. Coahuila is one of the largest states in the country and borders Texas. In the popular imagination, it is often associated with a dry climate, large areas of plains, and landscapes that resemble the desert much more than mountains covered with trees. That's why the contrast is almost immediate. Arteaga is just over 18.64 miles from Saltillo, the state capital, and this distance seems small on the map. In practice, however, it feels like crossing an invisible boundary. As you move away from the urban area and head towards the mountains, the terrain changes rapidly. The road climbs, the air cools, and the landscape transforms before your eyes. The dry scenery gives way to green hillsides, pine forests, and deep valleys. This part of northern Mexico is nestled in the Sierra de Arteaga, a mountain range connected to the Sierra Madre Oriental. It is a high-altitude region by the country's standards, with peaks that in some places exceed 9,800 feet. And that altitude changes everything. The climate here does not follow the pattern of the rest of the state. Temperatures are lower throughout the year and the seasons are very distinct. In winter, it is not uncommon to see thermometers close to 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and in some years, even below that. When more intense cold fronts advance through northern Mexico, snow appears in the higher areas of the mountains and changes the rhythm of the region. While much of the country experiences mild winter weather, Arteaga lives another reality. The mountains turn white, the roads take on a look reminiscent of European films, and everyday life coexists with a real winter. In the fall, the forests change color and take on yellow and orange tones. In spring, the green returns with a vengeance, and in summer, the cool climate transforms the region into a natural refuge for those who want to escape the intense heat of the surrounding cities. It is this combination of altitude, cold, and mountain vegetation that explains the nickname Mexican Switzerland. Not as a tourist exaggeration, but as an environmental comparison. Despite its catchy nickname and landscape that defies any Mexican stereotype, this city carries a title that often misleads many people. Arteaga was officially recognized as a Pueblo Magico, magical town. And that's where an explanation is needed. The Pueblos Magicos program was created by the Mexican government in the early thousands. The idea was to promote small towns with rich history, cultural importance, religious tradition, or unique natural beauty. Receiving this title means entering a kind of national showcase, as if the place became part of a club of special destinations. But that's exactly where curiosity comes in. Because when most people hear this name, they imagine the same old scenario. a historic center with old buildings, charming little streets, craft shops, typical restaurants, plaques marking dates, monuments, memories. In Arteaga, it's not like that. The city center is simple, functional, designed for those who live there. There is no large-scale tourist infrastructure, no themed shops, no seasonal hustle and bustle. In the urban area, you will find the basics: a central square, a church, local shops, and little else. The real magic begins when you look the other way, upwards, because it is in the mountains that the landscape really changes. A few minutes from the city center, the landscape begins to take on a new identity. The road narrows, the curves increase, and the scenery reveals the most famous side of Arteaga: the mountains. As the altitude rises, the houses become more distant, and silence takes over the road, setting the stage for what really makes this region famous. Here, it is not the buildings that attract attention, but the way life settles in the mountains. Scattered across the slopes are dozens of wooden chalets, many of them with architecture reminiscent of Alpine villages. Sloping roofs, small windows, and fireplaces are part of the routine for those who come to enjoy the cool mountain air. Many of these chalets belong to residents of Saltillo or Monterrey, who find here a refuge for weekends and holidays. But among all the characteristics that give the place its personality, one of them completely changes the way Arteaga is seen within Mexico. This region is home to the country's only ski resort. Just above the chalets, at the most visited point in the mountains, is the attraction that has made Arteaga unique within Mexico. This is where Bosque de Montreal is located, the tourist complex that houses the country's only ski center. It may seem strange to think of snow in the middle of Mexico, but Arteaga defies any geographical stereotype. While much of the country lives among beaches, deserts, and tropical forests, here the altitude creates a microclimate capable of sustaining a typically alpine experience. The resort operates year-round thanks to a combination of the natural cold of the mountains and an artificial snow system that keeps the slopes active even when there is no snowfall. When winter arrives in full force and the mountains receive real snow, the view becomes even more impressive. The slopes are transformed, white takes over the horizon, and the scenery resembles ski resorts in the Alps or Pyrenees, but just a few hours from Saltillo and Monterrey. The main slope is just over 754 feet long, with a moderate incline equivalent to a blue slope, perfect for beginners and still fun for those with experience. In addition, there are separate areas for snowboarding, sledding, and other snow toys. And for many people, this is the first time in their lives they have seen real snow. It is common to see entire families taking pictures, children building snowmen, adults trying to learn how to stop on skis, and groups venturing out without having to travel to Colorado or Europe. However, the mountains do not depend on snow to remain busy. When the weather warms up, everything changes pace, but the region remains active. The trails that cut through the pine forests attract those who enjoy hiking and those who prefer mountain biking. There are easier routes, longer routes, and trails that follow the contours of the mountains. Bosque de Montreal also offers horseback riding, zip-lining areas, and climbing walls. For those who enjoy watching animals, the mountains welcome migratory birds during various times of the year, which has turned Arteaga into a discreet bird-watching spot. And there is one detail that goes unnoticed by many people. At the top of the mountain, the complex is home to the highest golf course in all of Mexico. It is located at an altitude of over 6,500 feet and offers a view that accompanies the player with every stroke. It is the kind of setting that would make sense in luxury resorts in the Alps, but here in the north of the country, it is part of the local routine. After an intense day, whether in the snow, on the trails, or doing adventure activities, the experience returns to the same point. The heated cabins serve as a place to rest, the fireplaces light up the late afternoon, and the mountain landscape is transformed when viewed from the window. This is the atmosphere that has established Arteaga as a Mexican version of the Swiss mountains. Not because of the tourist label, but because of what the region really delivers. Although nature is what impresses most in Arteaga, the local culture and typical products of the village have their own strength. The region has always had very strong agricultural roots, and contrary to what many people imagine when they think of northern Mexico, the highlight here is not agave or cactus. It is apples. Arteaga is known for its orchards that spread across the mountain valleys, mainly in the neighboring community of San Antonio de las Alazanas, formerly called San Isidro de las Palomas. The village grew wheat until a plague destroyed the crops in the 19th century. The solution found by farmers starting in 1887 was to invest in apple trees. The mountain climate proved to be perfect for European varieties, and apple cultivation was so successful that today Arteaga produces 3 well-known varieties. The first is Golden Delicious, a yellow, sweet, and mild apple, widely used in pies and desserts. The second is Red Delicious, a dark red apple with an elongated shape and a milder flavor. And the third is the apple called Rosa Española, one of the first brought to the region, with a skin that mixes shades of yellow and red and a more fragrant flavor. But it didn't stop with apples. With them also came other temperate fruits, such as peaches and membrillos, which are relatives of quince. And along with them came the tradition of transforming all of this into artisanal products. Walking through the center of Arteaga, it is almost mandatory to enter one of the little shops selling local items. There you will find fruit liqueurs and sweet preserves prepared by the community itself, made with apples, pears, and quinces from neighboring orchards. One of the most famous products is apple liqueur, sweet and aromatic, perfect for starting or ending a meal. There are also homemade peach, pear, and apple jams, as well as candied fruits, those pieces of fruit cooked and dipped in sugar syrup, which are very traditional in Mexico. In the local candy stores, you can taste and indulge in classic peach and poron sweets, a type of local pear. They melt in your mouth and go very well with a hot coffee, especially in the cold mountain climate. The typical cuisine also includes wheat empanadas, small baked pies with sweet or savory fillings. And on weekends, many people climb the mountain just to eat the traditional barbacoa, made with lamb or goat meat slowly roasted in an underground oven. It is served with tortillas and sauces, and the aroma that comes out of the simple doors of the home-style restaurants fills the streets on Sunday mornings. But in addition to the ski slopes and food, you can't miss the parties. On the local calendar, the big attraction is the Feria de la Manzana, the Apple Festival, always celebrated in September in San Antonio de las Alazanas. It is a community festival that celebrates the harvest and attracts visitors from all over Coahuila. During the festival, there are exhibitions of pies, ciders, sweets, and all kinds of products made with apples, as well as parades, music, folk dancing, and even the election of the Apple Queen, all in a festive atmosphere typical of mountain towns. It is also worth remembering the day of San Isidro Labrador, patron saint of farmers, celebrated on May 15th. On this day, there is a procession that brings symbolic blessings to the seeds and crops, a tradition that reinforces the agricultural roots of the town. Another typical product of Arteaga is the sarape. This colorful wool poncho, so traditional in Mexico, is handmade here and is part of the clothing worn by men in the countryside to face the cold, early mornings in the mountains. At the Sunday markets, you can also find crafts made from poplar wood. Local artists carve figures of animals and fruits from light wood, which are sold as decorations. They are simple souvenirs, but they carry the identity of mountain life. And if you're curious, it's worth stopping by the small Arteaga Mummy Museum. The city is home to some naturally mummified bodies, similar to the mummies of Guanajuato, but on a much smaller scale. It is a peculiar attraction, a little macabre for some visitors, but one that reveals another unexpected piece of local history. Now tell me, is it or is it not an incredible place? For a long time, Arteaga was hidden on the map. It was the kind of place that only those who lived nearby knew about. People from Saltillo and Monterrey used it as a refuge, a peaceful little place in the summer and, with luck, snow in the winter. But the rest of the country hardly knew it existed. But that changed. And it changed fast. After the city was awarded the title of Pueblo Magico, magical town, and began to invest in ecotourism and events such as the Apple Festival, the movement grew. The name began to appear in blogs, magazines, and travel lists, and then the secret was out for good. In 2025 alone, more than 330,000 people passed through here, people from all over. The city's economy took off, with more than 75 million pesos coming in from tourism alone. And the city, which had previously seemed frozen in time, began to appear on the radar of the rest of Mexico. And even outside of Mexico. Nowadays, it is not uncommon to see cars with license plates from Texas or other states in the United States. People come to Mexico in search of exotic snow. And of course, people also come from various parts of the country. Everyone is curious to understand where this so-called Mexican Switzerland came from. But growth has its price. House prices have risen. New hotels, chalets, and restaurants have appeared. And even with reasonable control, the number of visitors has never returned to what it was before. And then comes the question that no one really likes to ask out loud. Is it possible to grow without losing what made the place special? Is it possible to remain unique without becoming a generic destination designed to please tourists? No one has the answer, but we hope that it doesn't become another one of those places that have been destroyed by uncontrolled tourism. In fact, if you've seen our video about iconic destinations that are being ruined by excessive visitors, you know exactly what we're talking about. But if you haven't seen it, the link will be in the description so you can check it out. Because in the end, the most interesting thing about Arteaga is not the snow, nor the cold, nor its European nickname. It's realizing that in a country that many people believe they know by heart, there are still places capable of completely challenging the common imagination, and that deserve to be preserved as such. So, did you already know about this place? Did you imagine that such a place existed in Mexico? Or was this just another one of those stories that changed the way you look at the map a little? Tell us in the comments what surprised you the most. And if you enjoyed getting to know this other side of the country, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you liked the content, leave your like, share it, and of course, don't forget to activate the new Hyper feature. This helps the channel gain visibility and continue bringing you these unbelievable trips through our beautiful world. See you next time.